And there we go. We are live. We are live. We are back. We have done one of these within not 6 months of doing the last one.
I know, right? On the day we said we were going to do it.
Crazy, although it was
wild times.
Touch and go, mate. It's touch and go.
It was, yeah. We did have our usual spate of tech issues, but we got through them. We powered through, and now here we are.
Yeah, that is.
I think that's pretty cool of us.
I feel like that should be the tagline for this podcast. We powered through, and here we are.
Not gotta like waffle off on tangents about them all.
No, that is part of the powering through. I tell you something that happened, right, that I wish that I'd like gotten on the last one, because I pressed end stream just as I noticed Johnny put in the chat, imagine talking about a Pokemon lineup for 8 hours and just deciding it's a 4.5.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, me and Johnny actually had like a long chat after that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna read the conversation that we had.
Oh, please do.
Where the fuck is
please
it?
do.
Oh, when it wants to fucking load. Because it's like I feel like most of them are gonna be, especially for like the first season, where a lot of them are quite like we know that Pokemon is a very rushed franchise, and I think I didn't realize how rushed it was when I played the first generation because I was a child and like I had the kind of imagination that does fill in the gaps for you in a way I don't now, where I'm like, hang on, this hasn't been fully realized or properly executed. And at the end of the day, like Pokemon's always been that brand. Like, and some of the older Pokemon, right? There's very little they could actually do with it mechanically. Like the concept back then, like I'm much more likely to forgive the mechanics for not living up to the potential of the concept. And now I'm less forgiving because like they have the mechanics and it's a choice to just rush it out and not see it through to its like best potential.
Yeah.
And also it's like something that I was saying to Johnny, is that first off, we will do an 8 hour deep dive on the average ones because if something is bad or annoyingly average, I will rant about it for much longer than I will talk about something that is good. And also, like when you go into this level of detail about every Pokemon, that's when you realize how much missed potential is there. Like you don't notice it when you're just skimming through the story, like clicking through the Pokedex to just get to the next bit, not paying that much attention. Because like if you know you don't want it on your team or you're just leveling it up to evolve and then chuck it in a box, you don't need to worry about it so much. It's only like now that we're paying attention that it's like we're noticing all of these issues.
Yeah.
And then really examining them. So I feel like we're gonna have a lot of Pokemon. And I think our scores are gonna get lower as we go through as well. I feel like we're gonna be like, yeah, I like that one. I've got good memories of that one. And also like they've built on that one in the decades since it was first introduced. And the scores are going to get lower. We're going to be like, well, they built on it, but they didn't build on it enough because actually, like now that we've exposed some, um, you know, areas that are frequently like not built upon enough, we're going to spot them better, and our you know, our choices further down the line are going to be influenced by what happens now, what we're seeing for the first time here.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, and it is, I agree with you that the ones that are bad Pokemon are ultimately gonna give us a lot more kind of meat to dissect than the good Pokemon. I mean that I suppose that's,
yeah,
I think that's our way of announcing that we expect the Mewtwo episode to be about 5 minutes long.
I actually no, I don't know.
No,
Let's crack on.
To be fair, now I'm thinking about it. What I think is the bad Pokemon are probably going to have other ones with like missed potential will be the kind of the long episodes, and the good Pokemon where they've gone really deep into it will also be the long episodes. But the ones where they're, you know, you need arenas where, you know, they've not really done much with them lore wise, and they've not really done much with them like in terms of giving them kind of like mainstream platforming. Those will be the ones where there'll be a lot less for us to be able to pick apart.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
So I suppose, again, what I'm saying, I think like the Graveler episode will be about 3 minutes.
Yeah. Right. Stop jinxing it. This is why everything we say, oh, this is going to be a short one, is never a fucking short one, because you keep jinxing it.
Oh, well, sorry about that. So what have you been up to since I last saw you?
Tell you what, I've been running,
Yeah?
weirdly enough. And I don't like running. I hate running. But my sister has roped me into doing the race for life in July with my cousins um for Cancer Research UK in memory of Anan. So I've had to run and I hate it and I don't like it and it's horrible, but I'm doing it because like I'm gonna get there and then I'm gonna have to run and everyone's gonna be looking at me.
Yeah? And what date is that?
28th of July.
28th
So
of
I've got a
July.
while.
Yeah. Well, do you have the link? Do you have the link to whack it in the chat?
Yeah, I've got a fundraiser link you can have if
Fantastic.
you wanna chip in.
I do want to chip in a few weeks when I am not the skinsist I've ever been. That was part of the reason why I was asking you, because I was like, I must make sure that Kirsty is not doing it like next week, because otherwise I'll have to be like, and thank you for raising all of these buttons for charity.
Yeah, no, it's not for a while yet, which is good. But like, I did get the fundraiser up like as early as possible, and also like start telling people because then I will be held accountable and made to run. Because if I have to do it of my own volition, I just fucking won't. Because like, I've not run a day in my life. I think I've been traumatized by like bleep tests.
Oh, we had the
Um,
bleep test.
yeah, fucking like the anxiety of just being like, please don't be the first person to want to sit down. Please don't be the first person to want to sit down. I it was horrible, and I feel like that stayed with me.
Yeah.
Like I get so like because like I've done a little bit of running obviously now just to see if I can, and like it's not that bad. It's boring. It's boring as shit, but I can do it.
Yeah.
And but I'm like really anxious about people looking at me, and I feel like it's from school because it's like I don't give a shit about joggers when they go past me. I don't give a shit about anyone who's out in the street, and I'm sure no one else gives a shit about me. But in my head, I'm like, oh, they're all watching you run like an awkward person that's never run before.
Well, I mean, I've never seen you run, but I would assume that you don't run in a way that I'd be like, oh, that person has never run before.
I feel like I definitely do.
And I'm genuinely saying that as this is true. This might make you feel a bit better. When I was in school, there was like this day when it was like you can either go to your classes or you can do a bunch of like PE exercises for the day. Like you can do like the 100 meters race and all that kind of stuff. And I did that, and I got the lowest. The slowest score of everyone in the school that year.
Oh no, that's not nice.
Do you know what?
I don't think they should tell you if you're the slowest. They should just tell the top 10 quickest and let everyone else guess.
Well, I agree. At the time, I was like, do you know what? I don't mind because I didn't have to do double science. But
I would have happily sat through double science to not have to run in front of my school peers easily, gladly.
Run really slowly in front of your school peers as well.
Exactly. Like all the fast kids are fucked off and are having a snack, and I've still got another lap to go. Fuck off. Hate it.
But yeah, it's I think it's a fantastic cause, and like I say, I shall be donating in due time, as I hope most of the listeners of this podcast also will.
All of the 0 people who are tuned in today.
Uh, it's up there for 3 weeks. It's up there for 3 weeks. Loads and loads of time for people to check it out and be like, I am not as skint as Tom. I am not as slow as Tom. I will donate some money.
Ah. What about you? What have you been up to, pals?
What I've been up to? So, this week I made my grand return to streaming.
Exciting.
Yeah. Again, to very few people, but I don't know. I'd had this feeling that I'd wanted to do it since the beginning of the year, and just things just kept on cropping up, so I wasn't able to do it. Even though, like, I do enjoy streaming, and I think that the people who watch this channel, like, in addition to doing this podcast, also like enjoy watching me like do it, and I do like live improv commentary and crack gags and all that kind of stuff based off the dialogue as it's happening. But the thing that made me that kind of pushed me over the edge, I saw a game that was like secondhand, and it was called something like YouTuber Life, and it's like a simulation where you like make YouTube videos on PlayStation, and I was like, yeah, that seems quite cool and quite meta. So I've been like doing like the character makes the vlogs and you don't really see them, but it's got like an RPG element to it. So it'll be like, and then this happened, like your tech goes down. How do you deal with it? And you like, and you like select it, and you can like create the names of the videos, like you put them in on the PlayStation Network, and like, you know, like when the keyboard comes up on the screen and you like create your own names of the videos. And I've been like putting like gags in the videos and stuff like that. It's got the art style of like Pokemon, and it's got like this little storyline where you're like becoming like a massive YouTuber. And as someone who has a YouTube channel, but it's alright, but has never been like massive, I've been like doing like bits of like comparisons to like when I've been doing my own YouTube videos and what it's like behind the scenes. So I actually think it's quite a cool little stream concept. So that's what I've been up to.
It sounds like a really cool little stream concept.
Well, thank you. So, like I say, I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to aim to do it like once or twice a week. So, if you fancy coming and joining me, mates, feel free to.
I will have to have a look at that. Yeah.
I've also announced that I'm doing through Comedy Lab. We've got the final. So we sold another place today.
Exciting.
So we got one place left. So if anyone wants that, it's in the chat, and we've got like 2.5 weeks to go. So hopefully that's going to sell out. But what I thought I would do is I'm experimenting with a webinar.
Ooh.
Yeah. So through Comedy Lab, I'm going to be doing a joke writing webinar. Where I'll show you loads of exercises for how to write jokes and like how jokes work and like break it all down. So again, if anyone fancies that, that's in the comment feed now. It's not officially like announced, but I've just got everything sorted. Where the next thing for Comedy Lab is we're going to do a long form. We're going to do a long form intensive in June.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be cool, you know. So let me just look at the calendar. We're currently booked in for I think June the 15th, and we're gonna do the big announcement this week. I suppose this is the announcement now, but like, you know, I don't have all the like links and stuff. But what it's gonna be is a day-long workshop from like 12 till like 5 or 6, where I'll show you and break down a bunch of long form improv formats and how to do them. And then at the night time, we will then have a showcase where you can do one or two of the long form formats that you found that you did that day that you enjoyed doing. So I think that's going to be quite a cool day as well. And like I say, that's going to be June the 15th. And all the links will be going up in the next, I think, like 48 hours. I've got my first Manchester preview, which is going to be on at First Bar, 14th of June.
Exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So that'll be the day before on the 14th of June, and that is at the minute it's looking like it's going to be a clowning show. It might be silent for the whole of it. I don't know, but it's going to be about success and what success is.
Okay.
And I think that again, that's going to be really, really cool. Introspecting what makes someone successul. And stuff like that. So, and I actually did a portion of it like maybe about 2 years ago at Blizzard, and it absolutely like blew the roof off. So, if anyone fancies that, that's on June the 14th. And like I say, this is I suppose the announcement, but I've just not put all the like links together properly. But
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are my big announcements. Webinar, which is on the 21st of March, and then the 14th and 15th of June, which is going to be my Manchester preview, one of my Manchester previews, because I'm also intending to approach Gulliver's about doing one. And the reason why is because it's not like a residency, but like I do a lot of stuff at Face Bar. I know the manager really well. I went to uni with him, and we've got a very good relationship. So I do a lot of stuff there, but it's not accessible. So one of the reasons why I want to do Gulliver's is because I know specifically through working with you that Gulliver's is like an accessible venue, and I've got like people who want to come see me but can't come see me at Face Bar. So so I'm gonna look at getting a Gulliver's or a Castle date set up as well, so that people who are not able to see me at Face Bar will be able to see me at Gulliver's or the Castle.
Cool. That sounds like giving people plenty of options, and it sounds like a really fun show.
Yeah, I genuinely think it's going to be absolutely sick. So, right, have you done your drawings?
Yes, I have, and you'll never guess what.
Oh, go on.
I have finished this whole sketchbook.
Really?
Yeah.
So are you going to get yourself a new sketchbook? Like
I had to get one out of the box in the other room to do my Clefairyfable drawing.
Oh, cool.
Because like Clefairy was the last page, and I didn't even notice until I'd already drawn it, and then I went to go to the next page, and I've just got the back of the book.
Oh, so cool. Well, what I was going to ask is, your new book, did you go for the same size book, or did you go for a bigger one?
No, I just went for another one that was like in my house. Like it was another one that had plain pieces of paper. And actually they're a bit glossy, so the crayons I have like don't come out great on it. So I don't know if I'm gonna have to rethink my entire style to use this notebook, or if I'm just gonna fucking deal.
Well, that would be very much in the style of this podcast, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, making do with everything going to shit.
Yeah, again, that could be the tagline. Could be the tagline. Very much.
Making do. That is the tagline of my life.
And by extension, podcast.
Yeah.
Okie doke. So, excited to see your Clefairy. Now, I don't want to brag on nothing, but I I had such a clear image for both of them. I'm very confident going into this week's competition. Okay. So I'm excited to see what you've got.
See, I had a really clear image for Clefairy, and then I realised that what I wanted to do is for Clefable was basically the same. So I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about my Clefairy. I don't know how I feel about the Clefable. Like I think you can tell what it is.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could be more creative. But I'll go ahead and show you my Clefairy. You ready?
Yeah. Oh, cool. Is that Mount Moon?
Yeah, the Clefairy dancing in the moonlight.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Do you know what? I initially was like, oh, should I do the Summit from the Anime? Because I think that's the most iconic episode. But I actually thought I would go with the one that is slightly more connected to me in terms of Clefairy, which is when I was a child, I used to play a lot of Pokemon Stadium.
Okay.
And there is, I don't know if you played a lot of it, but there is a Clefairy minigame where you're in a classroom. And there's like a.
Yeah.
So I went with that as a little tribute to the little mini game, and like the teacher Clefairy's got like these glasses on,
Mm-hmm.
looks sassy, um, and I also went for the Konami code here,
Yeah.
so I just thought I'd throw that in there as a little additional boost. I'll tell you something that is embarrassing, right.
Go
So,
on.
uh, because we only have 10 minutes to do these, I actually spent more time on the on the chalkboard than I did on the actual Clefairy. So, so let's have a look and see. I'm intrigued now about whether or not you did go for what you did with Clefable or you went with something new.
Um, it's pretty much the same, but with stars instead of a moon.
Oh! Do you know
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
so interesting, right? Right. So that there is the first. If I'm right, that's the first Pokemon that has been in portrait mode.
Well, it's the first book that's in portrait mode.
Yeah. No,
It's
there is.
like this book is stupid in portrait mode. Like the thing on the front, there's a you can't see it in my shitty old camera, but like there's like an embossed bit here, and it goes this way. Like this is the way the book goes, and I've done everything upside down. But like that's how this book goes. Like, but this has its thing on the side here because it's like the thing is on the sides, and this
Ah,
yeah. So it's like I've done it to suit the shape of the paper as opposed
right.
to a stylistic choice.
Well, there you go. The reason why I bring it up is because I very, very nearly did my one in portrait mode as well.
Ah.
And I ultimately went against it just because it would go against how I felt like the other ones were in this book. But
Hmm.
because you've changed your book, it's so odd that would happen, like for both of us. But this is what I went for. With you'll see in a sec why I was thinking about going for portrait mode. So I decided to do it based off of
Ah, the Clefairyfable Gengar story. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, head canon,
yeah.
fan theory.
Yeah, so
Mm.
so that's what I decided to do, and as you can see, that like if I'd have gone with portrait, I'd have probably found it a tiny bit easier. But I was like, no,
Mm.
I want to keep it like uniform across the book now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I did the same. There were a bunch where I thought being in portrait would have been so much easier for the Pokemon I had to draw, and I just didn't. I don't know why. Like, there is no reason it couldn't just be tipped on its side for that one page, but I did not.
yeah. So should we go into the main episode?
Let's do it. Let's talk about Clefairy.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
So, Tom, Clefairy, have any spicy hot takes on
Right,
Clefairy?
right, here we go. So I've definitely had a Clefairy. Um, I like I remember thinking, oh, it's quite cool that you would like find it in Mount Moon. It felt quite rare. I feel like there's a fair bit of like lore about it in like when you're in Mount
Yeah.
Moon, and then they like start turning up. So like I say, I've definitely had one, but I don't feel like I had it for very long. Now it's funny that you should say spicy takes on it because I don't know if you found this, but when I was like doing the drawing of it, um,
Mm.
I kind of started out with like the spiky ears, and it made me go, do you know what? I can see how, because the well known thing about Clefairy is that it was originally going to be the mascot instead of Pikachu, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like going, okay, there's like a lot of similarities, and it wouldn't surprise me, as again after what we found out, well, what you told me during the Pikachu episode, they didn't always have those ears. That
Yeah.
it would not surprise me if those ears came from Clefable and Clefairy
Yeah.
rather than the other way around. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, in both of the instances when I was doing the drawings, I was like, I feel like I am just basically drawing the Pikachu design here. Um, and it,
Yeah.
yeah,
They are very similar.
yeah,
But I do feel like there are a lot of similarities between a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon. And I don't know if it's just because they were limited in terms of what they could do in sprites. But like Clefairy's tail looks a lot like Squirtle's tail.
yeah.
Like its little curly hair looks a lot like Jigglypuff's curly hair. Like there are a lot of Saf is right. It's because they are all fat. All of the Pokemon in Gen 1 are fat, and I love them for it. Um, but like I feel like there are a lot of kind of reused stylistic choices that I don't mind
Mm,
because I feel like none of them feel overused, none of them feel too common, none of them makes me feel like, well, this is just a copy of this thing but a different color,
yeah.
even though like it that is may well be why they all look so similar. Um, but I think yeah, the more like I have to pay attention to it, the more I notice those similarities, and I don't care. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I'm not complaining about it. But it just did it. It just occurred to me because and I probably wouldn't have picked up on it had we not been drawing the images. But I was like, right, the spiky ears and the body shape, it's very similar. And like I say, it genuinely would not surprise me if it was that Pikachu took the inspiration from Clefairy rather than the other way around.
yeah. That doesn't surprise me at all. That I could see that being true.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, so that's kind of my main thing. Also, as well, I mean, we mentioned before about the Clefairy episode. I think that is quite iconic. Um,
yeah. It's a really memorable one.
yeah,
I like Clefairy is canonically the first Pokemon from space. I think Oswald is a fun character. I think it's a really interesting bit of like oh, there's so much the world doesn't know about Pokemon, of like Ash being like Ash and the gang, like seeing something exciting and rare.
mm,
And I do feel like that episode being really interesting, and properly diving into Clefairy's like story and lore
yeah,
makes it stand out because there are a lot of Pokemon that like their episode will be about their trainer's story and they're along for the ride,
mm,
um, rather than the Pokemon getting stuck into like the Pokemon itself. Or if it's like a battle-based story, there won't be so much like seeing the Pokemon in the wild. But I think Clefairy has a very memorable personality because of this episode. Um,
um, well, I think again, it's only now that we're kind of talking about it. The other thing that I imagine has happened with Clefairy is that similar to the female Nidoran, I think that it unfortunately gets de-emphasized long term because of
yeah,
Pikachu and probably
yeah,
because of Jigglypuff. Um,
yeah. Clefairy does feel like a Jigglypuff and a Pikachu had a baby.
mm, yes, and they don't. Like I say, so I feel like it's it's probably going to long term be affected by that, but there must have been some form of what's what I'm looking for. It's like like the creators must have had like a fondness for it for them to create such a memorable episode for it.
Yeah,
Yeah, regardless, like it wouldn't surprise me if that kind of like the space thing and all that kind of lore was just crystallized in that episode, and that's part of why it is so memorable. But that's because they had to basically abandon it as a Pokemon once Pikachu and
yeah.
Jigglypuff, yeah, once they come along.
But that's the thing. I feel like the Clefairy episode was so good. Um, that like maybe they were like, well, Clefairy was gonna be the main Pokemon, the main character, Ash's partner, and then we didn't need to really write a backstory for it then because it was gonna be the whole story was its story. And then they were like, fuck, now we've got to fit Clefairy in somewhere. And then came up with this sick episode where it's got a great
Mm.
backstory, but it doesn't really come up again. Like they have tucked it away, hidden it up in the mountains so that it has an excuse not to come back too much. But also, um, you know, um, like it does mean it's a little bit like if they'd done more space-based stuff, it
Yeah.
would be really cool to see Clefairy more. I think it would have been really cool when they did like the legendaries that are canonically also from space. I think if they had some kind of relationship with Clefairies, even if they're just in the background a bit, that they could have been really cool and fun.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
Like like why is it that like Dialga and Palkia, Dialga and Palkia,
yeah,
like why is it that like they should really, given the lore, have like Clefairies as like their minions?
yeah, yeah, right. That'd be so cool.
Yeah,
Um, like I feel like there's a there could be a really fun way to like tie all of these Pokemon with not even similar, but just slightly overlapping lore, um, uh, into each other's stories that I feel like is a missed opportunity in many respects.
yeah, yeah. But again, I think that's part of that is that there has been like a conscious de-emphasis of it, and like I know it is ridiculous that the reason is that it is pink.
Yeah, that is apparently why it wasn't gonna be Ash's Pokemon because they said they wanted it to be like neutral so that it didn't look like a gendered show. And if Ash was a boy, it would look girly Clefairy was if Clefairy was the main one because it's pink, which I think is fucking horse shit.
Mm.
But like I also know what 90s little boys were like. Like
Yeah,
I can see them being like, oh, the girly shit with
yeah.
the boy and his pet fairy, man.
But
I can
like
definitely see that.
But that is a thing as well about like so the reason why SpongeBob SquarePants is yellow is for exactly the same reason that
Mm,
because there is there's pink, there's green, there's blue sponges, but they were like yellow is more of a neutral color, so that's
mm.
why
Je
uh, SpongeBob is
Yellow is
yellow.
the non-binary color.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is. There we go. Confirmed. I'm always learning on this podcast. I say that all the time. Um, but yeah, I'll tell you what. There's one other thing as well. So this has been confirmed that at one point in time there was meant to be. So you know how there was Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and then Pokemon Yellow. That at one stage there was going to
Hmm.
be a Pokemon Pink.
Was there?
Yeah, so you'd have been followed around by a Clefairy rather than a Pikachu.
Was there?
Yes, but it was very very early in development. It got dropped.
Yeah, I was gonna say that can't have been one that got particularly far because like um yeah. It's a fan-made Pokemon Pink on romhacking.net.
Yeah.
But I think so it adds new features and types to the original Pokemon Blue, which is interesting. But yeah, apart from that, there's just yeah, an unfinished game. Yeah.
But yes, I mean, maybe I've made that up. Maybe I've made that up, but I'm sure I've not. That there was at one point in
No,
time a yellow and a pink.
there's a Game Rant article about it. And apparently some Pokemon Yellow source code hints that it did have a companion game. Um, uh, but there's not a lot of not like most of it is speculation outside of that.
Yes, yes. Like I
Um,
say, I'm sure that they found in the code that there was meant to be a companion game, and the theory is that it was meant to be
yeah.
pink, which may well have been Clefairy because Clefairy
Yeah,
at that point was
I
the
think it makes I was gonna say it makes sense it was Clefairy, but also I think Jigglypuff had more of a role in the show because obviously it followed Ash and team around. And I'm
Yeah.
genuinely can't believe no one even bothered to catch it and train it. Um, so if it had been Jigglypuff to match which Pokemon had more screen time in the show, that wouldn't have surprised me either.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Who knows? Not me.
Yes. Well, you could genuinely make an argument for both. You could make an argument for Jigglypuff, or you could go, like I'm sure if I'm right, in the manga they did have Clefairy as the mascot for a little while.
Yeah.
So if you are like, okay, so this again because it happened so early in development, it's like, okay, so both of them follow the anime story, or this one follows the anime story and this one follows the manga's story.
Yeah. I guess like at that time they weren't really sure it was going to take off
Mm,
because like they did have like multiple pillars of marketing that all intersected to promote each other.
yeah.
Like they had the games, they had merchandising, they had the manga, they had the anime, and they had the tragically failed newspaper strip.
Oh yes, you've shown me that in real life.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh, I need to.
you've got a full on piece of Pokemon history
I do.
that was so rare that when I was round Kirsty's house and she showed it to me, I put it into eBay and there was not a single copy of it on eBay. So you could be a millionaire right now.
I doubt it. I highly doubt it. But um uh I highly doubt it, but well, you never know. Some people will pay for any old shit, won't they?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, on that note, if you'd like to follow us on Patreon, that that'd be really useful.
Because we are not millionaires.
Nope.
Um,
And we're looking for people who are going to pay for any old shit.
but
So
yeah, did you ever have a Clefairy on your team?
I did, but I don't think will have had it for very long, and I'll tell you for why. I think that Clefairy suffers. I mean, I'll probably mention this like into more detail for the Clefable episode. That I think it really suffers from not having a third evolution, and I know that it technically does, but I'm not so sure I class the baby Pokemon as like a starter stage.
Yeah. Yeah, because obviously at this point in time, if we're thinking of it as like Gen 1, it doesn't have a third evolution. It is two stage. And I imagine when we come to look at the stats, it's going to be reflected there.
Yeah,
Um, but who knows?
yeah, um,
I feel like both Clefable and Wigglytuff were given pretty tanky stats. But I also feel like that's to make up for the fact that quite a cute Pokemon became like kind of derpy.
mm,
Because I feel like Jigglypuff and Clefairy are both cute,
yeah,
so you bond with them. And then like I feel like Clefable and Wigglytuff just aren't as cute. And I feel like it's like when it was Wartortle, Ivysaur, Charmeleon, they were allowed to be derpy because they were awkward teenagers that became cool, powerful adults. Clefable and Wigglytuff are very much stuck in their derp years.
yeah, yeah,
And I feel like I don't mind that because like not all Pokemon can be beasts. They don't all need to be, but I do feel like I don't mind not evolving my Jigglypuff or my Clefairy because like they're kind of ugly. Not
yeah,
ugly, but like compared to the cuteness of the first stage.
yeah. Um, I mean, it's one of those things where I feel like I'd be more likely to keep my Jigglypuff because of the show than with Clefairy, where I just whack a Moonstone on it and then whack it in the box. Um,
Yeah.
I mean,
Watch us find out later on when we do the Clefable stuff that it is actually a fucking beast. to
Yeah.
fight with, and we've just been underrating it because it's like derpy looking.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if that is the case, and I'll tell you for why. Because so I'm going to sound like an old man Pokemon fan here. I've never really understood fairy type.
I get fairy type in the sense that from a competitive perspective, dragon types were too powerful.
Yeah,
Which, like in the first generation, that just means Dragonite is too powerful.
yeah,
Um, but and like there weren't enough kind of Pokemon that could stand up to it, um, like without them doing something overpowered. So I guess I get it, but I don't get some of them. I feel like some of them are weird. But again, maybe that's the boomer in me being like, back in my day.
well, you see, for me, it is slightly more of a boomery thing in that, and I do this as well with some of the stuff that was introduced in Gen 2. Um, like, when I get Steel type, I'm always like, is fire bad against this? Is fire not good against? Is, like, fire good against this? And it's the same with Fairy type, where it's like, for some reason, it just will not go in. Like, what Fairy type's good for, what Fairy type's bad for, in terms of, like, the only thing that really sticks in is that it's good against dragon types. And I'm guessing that when we come to look at the stats for Clefable, the fact that it's had fairy type added is going to be like, okay, because it's got fairy type, this is like, it's now like competitively viable, XYZ. But
Yeah.
I'm guessing before that happened, it would have been like, no one would have bothered with it.
Yeah. Because I feel like in terms of normal types in the first generation, you've got a lot of pretty good ones. Like you get Rattata really early on and Raticate learn some decent-ish moves.
Yeah.
Like again, I wouldn't keep it to the end because you also get like handed a Snorlax, which is a beast.
Yeah.
Um, Tauros is right there. Um, like if you are patient in the Safari Zone, you've got a Chansey available to you, which I feel like is in the same kind of wheelhouse as Clefable and Wigglytuff,
Yeah.
um, but is like rarer and stands out more as being like the tanky one, I think.
Mm.
So if you've got the energy, you really want that type of normal style Pokemon on your team, like hold out for a Chansey. But I've always been someone who avoids normal like the plague because while they can do certain things, my strategy effectively amounts to using super effective moves.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah.
Like type advantage, take advantage of it, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would avoid normal because normal is not super effective against anything, but it does have a number of weaknesses.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm not wasting my time on this shit if I can't super effective something.
Yeah. Well, I've got two reasons why I know I wouldn't have used Clefairy very much. So the first one
Hmm.
is, if I'm correct, it can learn Sing,
Yes.
which is a move that I very much can see the value of and could see the value of back when I was younger.
Hmm.
But I'd be more likely to get a Jigglypuff for that because that's like
Yeah.
it's gimmick.
It's Jigglypuff's signature move.
Yeah. Um, but the other reason why I know that I will have moved on very quickly from Clefairy is I've never been a fan of Metronome.
I was gonna say metronome because um in the show, I think metronome is one of Clefairy's signature
Yeah,
moves. And later on it does become Togepi's signature move
yeah,
after Togepi hatches. But metronome like uses a randomly selective move.
yeah,
So when in the show, right, it always pulled out something cool,
yeah,
and exciting and necessary and useful. And in the game, it randomly pulls out a move, and most moves are shit. I don't like not having control over the move I'm about to do.
Yeah,
It could be a move that my opponent is immune to. It could be a move that does absolutely sweet fuck all for my strategy,
yeah,
which again is very simple. If someone can like build a strategy around using metronome, good for them because I'm not fucking trying to figure out how to use that in a way that's at all effective.
yeah. And I've also got a little theory about metronome, which is so metronome becomes Togepi's like signature move on the show, and it would not surprise me if they were like, okay, what do we go for? Pikachu, Pikachu, Clefairy, right? And I bet you they were like brainstorming ideas, and then they were like, right, we're going with Pikachu. And I bet you after a little while they introduced Togepi, and then they were like, right, well, if Togepi has got metronome, we can use all of the ideas that we had for Clefairy that we would have used for Clefairy um, in the show now, and not have to put a Clefairy back in it.
Mm, yeah, I can see that because like Togepi is also not a million miles away from the Clefairy design, is it?
Nope, nope. I once won a Togepi from a claw machine. And yeah, I used
Ah.
to have a whole bunch of Pokemon that I won from claw machines. I used to be very good at them. And then my dog ate all but two of them.
Oh no.
Yeah, annoyingly, right? They left the Mew. There was a Mew in there. And it's like, well, surely out of all of these ones that you wanted to rip apart, the one that looks like a cat should have been the one that you went for.
Oh, bless.
But yes, I mean, I'm a fan of a Togepi, but Togepi's episode can come in about 14 years when we finally get round to them.
Hmm.
So, my question to you is, what's your memories of Togepi? Have you... God, what am I doing? What are your memories of Clefairy? Have you had a Clefairy?
No, I've done the same. It like I get it, I evolve it, I chuck it in the box, it's in my decks, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like I've never really bothered to have one on my team, so uh never mind.
Yeah. Well, on that note, should we have a look at the dex entries?
Let's do that.
Right, let's do it. There it is there. Fantastic little image. Again, very, very Pikachu-like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, now I'm even looking at it, like, it's even got, like, the different coloured cheeks. Right, here we go. Pokedex entries. Okie doke. So, my guess for this is that it's going to be quite good for the first two generations, then it's going to get lazy as they de-emphasize it. Red and blue. Its magical and cute appeal has many admirers. It is rare and found only in certain areas. What a boring
Best.
description.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you much about it, but I guess that leans into like the idea of it being mysterious in the first generation.
Yeah, I can see that. Um, and then yellow, adored for their cute looks and playfulness. They are thought to be rare as they do not appear often. I wonder if they'll stick with that, you know, like it being like rare. Um,
Yeah, I feel like that's quite a good one because like it it's also quite it would be good if it was the mascot because it's like right, so this is a popular Pokemon and they're making a big deal out of how popular it is, but also making it feel special because you have one and not a lot of people do. Because like although Pikachu was not always easy to catch in the show, not the show, in the games, because it was like it didn't have a very common it didn't show up very much.
yeah,
Um the Pokedex and the show made it like really hammered home that it was a very common Pokemon. Like loads of people have Pikachu and that Ash's one just happens to be special because it's uh weirdly powerful compared to other Pikachu. So I guess this is kind of like the foil to that, where Pikachu is really common and Ash has a special one. Clefairy are really rare, and you're special just because you have one.
Yeah, and I tell you that could actually link into it being the mascot for Pokemon Pink. Should there have been a Pokemon Pink?
Definitely.
Yeah,
So
because if I'm right, you can't catch other Pikachu in Pokemon Yellow.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and then we've got. I feel like this is quite interesting for Stadium. Because of its adorable nature, it is in high demand as a pet. However, it is rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like we've not come across one of these where they're like, okay, yes, this is something that people use as a pet before.
Mm.
Um, however, it's rare and found only in limited areas. I'm guessing that we're going to see similar for that with Growlithe later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I quite like gold. The moonlight that it stores in the wings on its back apparently gives it the ability to float in midair. I think that's quite cute.
Yeah, we're getting into the
It,
actual like
yeah.
lore of it as a Pokemon now.
And also I like how it says apparently, so it's like this could be true, or it could just be like a little bit of a myth around it. Like I like that mysteriousness. I like that it's retained that.
Yeah,
Um, Silver is sticking to the theme here. Its adorable behavior and cry make it highly popular. However, this cute Pokemon is rarely found. Um, Crystal I like because again, it's quite mysterious. Like, so it says, though rarely seen, it becomes easier to spot for some reason on the night of a full moon. Like it hints at a mystery there. Like I
yeah,
would really like it if they'd sort of done more with Clefairy both like in the games and the show to like make it feel like elusive and special the way it has here.
yeah.
Stay go on.
I don't know if they did do this, but like that there should suggest that similar to Noctowl, you shouldn't be able to catch it until it's on the night cycle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I think that makes sense.
yeah.
Um Stadium 2 has copied Gold's homework again. Ruby and Sapphire is very cute and oh, on every night of a full moon, groups of this Pokemon come out to play. When dawn arrives, the tired Clefairy return to their quiet mountain retreats and go to sleep nestled up against each other. Like,
Oh,
isn't that a vibe? Isn't that just the life that you want to live?
yeah. I am genuinely getting a feeling that like the makers of Pokemon must actually have quite a lot of fondness for Clefairy.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
Like, I feel like, yeah, Safa said at least not bullying this Pokemon. Like, and it's not. It's like, this is clearly very affectionate.
yeah, like
Emerald is,
we don't get this for every Pokemon. Some of them
nope.
are just like it's got legs and that's it.
It's got big ears. And a horn. No, so Emerald's basically the same as Ruby and Sapphire. Fire Red is the same, is basically the same as like yellow. Leaf Green, basically the same as red. Diamond has thought to live with others on quiet mountains. It is popular for its adorable nature. So here they don't even know if it lives in the mountains.
Mm,
Um, Pearl I quite like. It flies using the wings on its back to collect moonlight. This Pokemon is difficult to find. I would like more information about what they mean by collect moonlight. I don't
yeah,
think that's a tangible thing that you can collect. Platinum's very cute though. It is said that happiness will come to those who see a gathering of Clefairy dancing under a full moon. I would like it if that was like a mechanic in the game. It's like if you see the Clefairy, then like get some good luck. Like you get like some bonuses or something.
yeah. Or you're
Um,
like the Pokemon that require friendship. Like it boosts their points
yes,
up.
yeah. Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the same as Gold and Silver. Black and White uh is the same as Platinum. Black 2 and White 2 have on nights with a full moon, Clefairy gather from all over and dance. Bathing in moonlight makes them float. Cute.
So we got
Uh,
confirmation then about the floating.
So X is the same as platinum, Y is the same as pearl. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are the same as Ruby and Sapphire. I like Sun. I like Sun. Its adorable behavior and appearance make it popular with men and women, young and old. Its numbers are few, however. So I like that it's like trying to lean away from the gendered stereotype of the pink fairy
Yeah,
Pokemon being girls and being like, no, everyone likes this Pokemon. Shut the fuck up.
yeah,
But also acknowledging that like it's still elusive.
yeah,
Um, I like moon as well. On nights with a full moon, they gather together and dance. The surrounding area is enveloped in abnormal magnetic fields, which again, I think would make a really fun game mechanic.
yeah,
Like
totally.
on the nights when Clefairy happen to appear, like that's when your electric type Pokemon are also like overpowered or something.
Yeah,
Like that's when Pokemon that need to be near like the electric lodestone rock evolve, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like I think that'd be really cool.
yeah.
Um if they could like factor that in somehow. Um, as you know, the games get a bit more open world and creative.
Mm.
Um, Ultra Sun, they're popular, but they're rare. Trainers who show them off recklessly may be targeted by thieves. Again, very cool, but like, why didn't I see more of this in the game? Like, if
Yeah,
you like, there should be people who are like, oh, there's no point fighting you. I'm looking for a Clefairy. Like that would be cool. I don't maybe I don't read the dialogue enough, but I don't remember that happening and I feel like it really could.
yeah, like you
Uh
could totally turn these into mechanics. You know, you've got Clefairy in your team, you're more likely to get Team Rocket encounters.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That'd be so cool. Ultra Moon has bathed in moonlight, its wings grow faintly. Without even flapping, Clefairy rises into the air where it dances around. That's cute. That's nice.
Yeah.
Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is the same as yellow. Sword and Shield are the same as X and Y. No,
Oh,
they're the same as X and they're X and Soul Silver.
normally they're not that
Um,
lazy. Normally Sword and Shield's got like a decent one for us.
yeah. Um, Brilliant Diamond is the same as Diamond. Pearl, Shining Pearl is not the same as Pearl, but I think it's similar to something. It's similar to Red. Moonlight gathers on the wings on Clefairy's back, allowing Clefairy to fly. The Pokemon is difficult to find, so it's not telling me anything new, but I don't think it's quite word for word the same as any others.
Yeah.
Legends Arceus says it can be found in quiet mountain areas on a full moon's night. Its dancing and its tiny, faintly glowing wings confer upon it a lovely fairy-like quality. That's very cute.
Yeah.
Um, Scarlet has the same as Moon. No, it doesn't. It has the same as something. It has the same as Black 2 and White 2. And Violet has the same as Moon. So a fair bit of repeated information there.
Yeah.
But I feel like it does combine to give quite a full picture of what Clefairy is like in the wild. And I think generally I prefer the Pokedex entries that are about the Pokemon in the wild. They feel a bit more, they just feel nicer. They feel like this is a scientist observing like a Pokemon rather than like this is someone like like observing it and doing field work much more than just like capturing it and poking it and prodding it and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I think that I prefer in general, and I feel like these combine to give a pretty well-rounded image, even if
Yeah.
it was a fair bit of repeated information. But I do feel like underserved in the sense that I would have liked to have seen this information reflected more in like the actual gameplay.
Yes. Well, I must admit, I don't know if you were doing the same, but like as we were reading that, I was like, the thing I appreciated was the lore reason for the de-emphasis of Clefairy, which I feel like we've never seen before. Um, like this couldn't be the mascot because they're so rare, really.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I guess they'd have to give it like give Ash a new story as to like getting his first Pokemon.
mm,
Like, because Professor Oak probably wouldn't give away a Pokemon so rare. Um, but like I could totally see it being like, well, there all of like it could be a fun, interesting thing where like loads of people have Pikachu because they're really common, loads of people have Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur because they're the ones every trainer gets, but like only Ash has a Clefairy, and I feel like that would have made for a really interesting angle for like the narrative of the overarching series.
Yeah, and it would have given more of validity to Team Rocket.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Instead of having to come up with this, like, no, this Pikachu is special.
Yeah, it's like, no, these are just really, really rare. And it's like, well, Giovanni would be like, well, yeah, go after it then.
Yeah.
Right, shall we have a look at its Smogon?
Let's do that. Let's
Okay,
do that.
so there they are. I like their in-game sprite. I like the fact that they've got their little arms just kind of wobbling about as if it doesn't have elbows.
Hmm.
Uh, so
Hmm.
it's single type fairy. Now I was somewhat expecting it to be normal fairy type. So that is
Yeah, its normal typing got retconned, which is rare because normally they do just double up the type. But I quite like that because it means that it did lose its weaknesses. Like obviously it gained new ones, but because like it's now resistant to fighting, whereas when it was normal type it would have been weak to fighting. So losing that resistance gives it a bit more of a oomph, like makes it a bit more of an interesting Pokemon to want to put on your team, I think.
so if you trade like I don't know if this is possible, but if you trade like a Clefairy from a game that doesn't have fairy type to a game that doesn't have fairy type, like does it lose its like what happens to its like fairy type
Yeah.
moves? Like what happens?
So I haven't traded moves but Pokemon between generation in a while. But if it's anything like it was, in the early generations, like the game that you're trading it from will flag it as like I think it will lose its fairy typing and you can't trade anything with a move that doesn't exist in the older game.
Yeah.
Like because I remember trading between like gold and red, and there's like the lady in the Pokemon Center who lets you through to the trading section goes like you can't take that Pokemon through. Like you can't, and it like scans. It's like right, this won't scan.
Right. Cool.
So obviously, I assume the newer games have a much less clunky way of doing that, but they still do basically that.
Yeah. So we've got here. Its abilities are Cute Charm, 30% chance of infatuating the Pokemon opposite gender.
Mm-hmm.
Magic Guard, this Pokemon can only be damaged by direct attacks. Oh, I bet that's useful.
Yeah.
And Friend Guard, this Pokemon's allies receive 3/4 damage from other Pokemon attacks. So that'd be good for double battles. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely feels like the kind of Pokemon that is, yeah, useful for sort of strategic group battles. And I feel like that again, um, in my mind links it with like Chansey because like Chansey is the healing Pokemon. Like it's tanky and it's got all these other things, but its signature moves are about like healing the rest of your team.
yeah. And this is called PU in terms of its like ranking. I don't know what the P stands for. I'm trying to work out what the P stands for. Um, uh, but yeah, so it's in something called the PU class, which is the fifth class. But it's still like above. It's still above like never used. So it must be decent, which lends into Clefable's like in terms of them probably bigging it up soon as being a bit of a
Yeah.
beast. Okay, so let's see what it says. As a result of Clefairy's solid, Eviolite augmented bulk and access to reliable recovery in soft boiled, Clefairy is capable of functioning as an effective check to many threatening special attackers such as Rotom F, Silvally Dragon, and Clefairy also has access to stellar defensive abilities such as Magic Guard, which blocks all forms of passive damage, making it immune to entry hazards and allowing it to act as a status absorber, which is partially useful for calm mindsets. On top of this, Clefairy boasts an amazing support move pool with moves such as Knock Off, Stealth Rock, and Thunder Wave in its arsenal, making Clefairy one of the few Pokemon in the tier to have both Stealth Rock and Recovery. Unfortunately, Clefairy is heavily reliant on its Eviolite to check most special attackers due to it otherwise below average bulk, making it vulnerable to knockoff and thus shaky as a dark type check. Even with Eviolite intact, Clefairy is unfortunately unable to reliably switch into many of the stronger special attackers in the tier, such as Aurorus, Jellicent, and Drampa, and struggles against strong physical attackers such as Stoutland and Golurk as a result of its poor physical bulk. In addition, Clefairy's passive nature and fairy typing unfortunately leaves it helpless against a variety of threatening wall breakers such as Victreebel and Aggron, often giving these Pokemon free entry. As a result, Clefairy is largely restricted to bulkier, more defensive teams where these weaknesses can be patched up. Now that's like the best one of these that we've read for, I'd say, at least 7-8 Pokemon now.
Yeah, definitely. And also I feel like it's very comprehensive in acknowledging how once it became fairy type, it got tanky, even though it already had kind of not bad stats for like what it was in Gen 1. And how it compares to kind of like basically all of the things referenced that are like that can beat it are things that came in way later
Yeah.
that I feel like came in very specifically to be able to counter fairy types so they weren't overpowered.
Yeah. But I bet you, if you were to ask the common like Pokemon fan, oh, do you think that Clefairy's gonna have is gonna be the one that has like the decent write up and that people like want to use like offensively in the meta? Most people would say, nah, I reckon that's going to be like way lower than like when we had like Nidorina and it was basically do not use this.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like especially for not fully evolved Pokemon, it's got a lot more detail than I anticipated it would.
And again, I don't know about yourself, but as we were reading through the decks, I was like, right, I'm already feeling like this is going to get a better Trubbish rating than I anticipated it would going into this episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, I'm probably going to give this a 6.
Yeah, I would also give it a solid 6 because I think I really like the detail that you get about Clefairy's kind of like social life in the wild, while also keeping its air of mystery about it. But I do feel like it loses a few points because I would so like to see some of this mysterious energy pull through into the games more. And I feel like I say that all the time. And I also have already acknowledged that that you can't build that much. But then they can because like they build all of these like hidden abilities and shit. So they can do it in battle. Why can't they do it in the overworld? Like it's very possible.
Yeah.
I would like them to like put that effort in and show the way that like the Pokemon influence the world around them.
Yeah.
A bit more.
Like this here is genuinely the first one that I've been like I know we've been going through like a lot of the big hitters, but like this is the first one that I've been like, okay, I feel like I have had my mind changed a little bit by this, and it's like if I do a replay of Pokemon Let's Go, like
yeah,
I may well,
yeah,
like I feel like it has made a very very good case for me getting one now. But let's see what happens with the Clefable episode.
Absolutely, let's do that.
Right, well, should we go into the break first?
Let's have a break. If you're happy to monologue again about all the fun projects you've got coming up, I'm gonna get a cup of tea.
Yeah, mate, that's all good. So the projects that I've got coming up, I've got the Brighton Fringe coming up. That is in May. I have got I've got the Blizzard Broadcast Avalanche coming up at the end of this month, which should be ace, which is with some of my absolute favourite people, such as Bobby Jones and Maxine Wade. I have got in a play. I know it's absolutely going to be sick. I've got uh, I've got, like I say, I've got the comedy lab. I've got the comedy lab. Oh, you've missed this, Saf, but I'm doing a little. I'm giving a webinar a go, so I'm going to do a webinar on how to write jokes at home. So that is going to be on the 21st of March. And what I'm hoping is similar to what we do with the Trubbish stuff. I'm going to do the webinar, and then I'm going to be able to kind of like have that kind of exist out in the ether as a way of kind of promoting the fact that I'm doing these workshops. I've got one final place left on the workshops for April, which, if anyone is interested, that is on April 6th and April 7th. I've got my long form workshops, which are going to be on June the 15th, which is going to be a workshop followed by a showcase. So if people fancy doing the workshop, there'll be a showcase in the evening. If people just fancy watching some cool improv and like experimental improv like techniques, that is going to be on the 15th as well. We're going to be putting out those tickets. I'll probably do those on like sort of like a couple of quid, just in order to kind of make it so that people who are going are like going there specifically for it, because it is on a Saturday night, and I think that having that tiny barrier can be actually quite beneficial sometimes, particularly on like Fridays and Saturday nights. So that, you know, like stag do's, hen nights and stuff like that just happen to be in, and it's like, oh, there's comedy on upstairs. It's like sometimes it's good to just be like, well, this is what it is, and it costs like a couple of quid to come in. I've got my show, which has been confirmed as of yesterday, which is going to be on June the 14th, which is going to be the whip of my show called Success, and I'm also doing another whip, which is going to be at the Comedy Balloon, which I think is going to be on June the 6th, if I'm right. So that's going to be on the Wednesday, and I'm going to be chatting with Gulliver's about getting on one there, because I know that Face Bar and the Balloon are not accessible for people with disabilities, and I want this to be a show for everyone. What else have I got coming up? I've recently been added to the posters for Seek Out Festival, which is going to be in July. And hopefully we're going to be. I've mentioned this, I think, on stream before, but I'm in chats with getting on like a horror queer cabaret, which will hopefully have some more information for that by the next one of these. That'd be cool if we can get that up and running. On the same note, are you alright to do some monologuing whilst I...
Hello?
Hello.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fabulous.
I didn't know if Zoom was fucking up then, but yes, I'm very happy to do some monologuing.
Fab stuff.
I mean, I don't have loads to monologue about. Unlike Tom, I don't have a very busy schedule of gigs and shows. And he's already shouted out the Blizzard Comedy Broadcast Avalanche at the end of the month. There is also the highlights of last week's Blizzard Comedy being broadcast to the Blizzard Twitch this Monday coming. And I'm going to pop a link to that in the chat. We also have the tickets for our April show, which do not want to have loaded, which is a pain in my ass. But we've got the absolutely fantastic Dave Shawner headlining, who's very, very funny and very, very lovely, and just a great lineup of people. So if you want to come to the next live Blizzard on the 8th of April, tickets to that are now in the chat. In terms of what I personally am doing, which is considerably less exciting, as I was saying earlier, I've been running a lot and I hate running. But me and my sister and my cousins are getting together to raise money for Cancer Research UK in memory of our nan who died a couple of years ago. Um, and so I've done some running. I hate it, but I can do the distance, but at basically a walking pace. So like I will do that in the hopes of meeting my fundraising target. And I might also if I get it, I will do some stretch goals where I will promise to actually run the whole thing at a proper running pace, instead of just walk it. If I reach a second lot of stretch goals, I will not bitch and whinge about it the whole time. I feel like if I reach like an enormous amount of stretch, which I will decide an actual number for later on, once I can see how well this is going, what I shall do is I will keep running after the race until I've Pavloved myself into thinking it's good, when in fact I hate it very much. Um, Probably, maybe. I hope I don't get that much money, to be honest, but I hope I do because cancer research is such a good cause, and it was very, you know, I'm glad I'm doing this with my family. And now that fundraiser is in the chat, if anyone has any spare pennies lying around that they want to put there, that'd be very much appreciated, not just by me, but like by my family and by like anyone else dealing with uh going through the trauma of losing someone to such a horrible disease. That's not a very fun topic to be talking about on a light-hearted, silly Pokemon show, but unfortunately, I'm going to bring it up every single time I'm on it between now and when I have to run this race for life, because I do not like running. I do not like it at all. And um I I hope I get some money for it, because otherwise why am I doing it? Because I really do not care enough about my body to run for that reason. Like when my sister messaged me and said, "Do you want to do the race for life with us?" I was like, "Well, not really. Can I do one of the cycling ones?" And I might do like the London to Brighton sometime, just because like it's something I've wanted to do for a while and just like never been available to do it. Um, but I didn't want to be left out while my family were all doing something, so I figured I would just join in, which yeah, that's going how that's going.
Yeah.
And I've done two runs since I
Yay!
signed up to do that, and I have hated every second of both of them. But like, I feel like by July they will be more tolerable.
I tell you what, right? I occasionally go to the gym, if you can believe it. Uh,
Hmm.
um, but and the reason why I go to the gym is because I find it really difficult to exercise if I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Yeah, I like seeing the numbers go up. Like I could just go for a run, but like I go for a run with like my Strava on, and I'm like, did I do it? Did I get the number?
Yeah,
But tell you what, my phone's inbuilt tracker like tells me like how many calories you burn,
yeah,
and I'm looking at it like, well, that feels really pointless. Like, what was the actual point in that? That number is so low for how like sweaty and out of breath I felt.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I say, I definitely like whenever I go on a treadmill, I'm always like, okay, I either need to hit a number of calories or I need to hit a number of like kilometers that I've done it on, because
Yeah.
and that's part of the problem that I have when I do normal like jogging and stuff. It's like I've got no clue really. Like, is the phone right? Is the like I've got no real
Yeah.
reason to think is the treadmill right, but like you'd think that if like treadmills were wrong, like like bodybuilders and fitness people would like actually
Yeah.
like
Would flag it.
yeah, would flag that. And again, you could make the exact same argument for the phones, but it's like I like the fact that I could just go right. I'm going to do this until that number says 300, and then I'm done. And
Yeah.
I don't have that same ability when I'm like, even if I'm going jogging around the park, it's like I do that, and then I've got to do the going home bit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and yeah, I just find that difficult. I tell you this as well. I really admire the fact that you're doing this, particularly at this time of year, because I know for a fact I really struggle with the motivation to do it, like when it's wet and cold.
yeah, well, the actual run itself is in July, and I don't know if that's going to be better because the actual run itself is going to be scorching hot. However, like I've not gone out when it's like very wet and gross. Like I've been um going for like a walk with an umbrella to get my fresh air,
Yeah,
but not running because I don't want to slip over because my shoes have no fucking grip on them. It's like I went out today where it was like arguably warm enough that I didn't need to be wearing a thermal hat. And one day last week when it was also fairly warm and not rainy. Like I don't really go out in the rain. Um, I don't want to go out when it's too cold. But I figure, like I was saying earlier, like I have started telling people I'm doing it now so they hold me accountable and make me do
yeah,
it. And even if like people don't say, have you done a run? Have you done a run? Me knowing that I am going to have to do it in front of people because I've told everyone I will is like more motivation. Like when I was boxing, my
yeah,
coach used to go for a run, get light on your feet for a run in, and you will feel like it will be so much easier to like dodge and weave when you're boxing. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to practice my blocks. I'm just going to practice getting punched really hard by someone bigger than me because I would rather do that than go for a fucking run. That's how much I hate running.
yeah.
Um,
But yeah, no,
uh,
like I say, I totally get it because, like I say, I really, really struggle. Again, I really struggle, and again, like I've got a lot of admiration for you for doing it because, like, I know whenever I do, like, whenever like life gets stressful and stuff, I know that like going to the gym and like my fitness stuff, like, is the first thing that gets dropped. You know,
mm,
say if I've got something that I need to do, say if you like say if you messaged me tomorrow and was like, we've got this thing we need to get a whole bunch of the editing done. It's really really easy for me to go, right, well, that 2 hours at the gym I was going to do, that can go now. So the fact that you're doing it
yeah,
and you've done something that like holds you accountable, like I said, I'm very very I applaud you, mates, and I think many
thank
people should
you.
give you lots and lots and lots of money. Um, Here's a question for you. Um, so again, another reason why I like the gym. I often forget my like headphones and stuff. Especially,
Yeah,
especially now since most phones have removed like the headphone jack and stuff like that. So
yeah,
not only do I often forget my headphones, but I often forget to charge them on top of that. So I like the fact that when I go to the gym, there's like something playing, like that I can like
mm,
listen to, and all workout music's
mm.
the same in it. It's just like
Nah, I
Britney
need
Spears or
my
whatever.
soundtrack. I need my soundtrack. I need my tunes that I like
Yeah,
because I like weird niche ska bands. And if you are playing something I don't like, I will get so angry. I get so annoyed at music that I haven't chosen. Like my brother and sister got me like a wireless Bluetooth headset that is plugged into my laptop in front of me as we speak. And it is so good. I take it everywhere with me. I get anxious if I don't have it because it's like, what if I need to spend 5 minutes alone with my thoughts and I don't have my headphones to distract me? Um, and yeah, they are lifesavers. They
yeah,
should be available on the NHS.
yeah,
They have definitely stopped me from like going on some punching sprees.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Whereas
like I need to be in total control.
I'm quite a fan of the musical output of Kesha, so I feel like I'm probably much more you know, I'm much more acclimatized to to Radio 2.
Yeah, no, I don't like radio, because it plays adverts,
Mm.
and if I am exposed to an advert against my will, I get so angry. Like, I get annoyed just like walking down the street and seeing a billboard. I'm like, well, I can't even go for a fucking walk without being advertised to. I don't want to buy your shit. And I get really upset. And I'm like, I do not want. I don't want people trying to sell me shit. If I need something, I'll come to you. And if you're trying to sell me shit without me reaching out to you first, that's a bad, bad check against you in my book.
Mm. Oh well, I'll tell you, I don't know why, but it just popped in my head. Another new little project that I've been working on that I have forgotten to mention so far, which is I decided off the back of so I mentioned it at the beginning that I've started doing streaming on this channel, and it was like it's like a meta YouTube thing. Well, that
Yeah.
gave me the idea to actually do an actual YouTube video. And what I did was created a. For those of you who follow my Comedy Lab page, I often like do like analysis of like humor, and I did a little test analysis of the humor in Dragon Ball. Yeah,
Ooh.
so I'm gonna put the thing for that in, because I thought that might be like a cool little thing that doesn't take me very long to make off the back of like the content that I'm already putting out there. So yeah, it was again, it's because we were talking about like kind of like your channels and like things that you know, stop you from, you know, like succumbing to the, you know, the pressures of the world and going on punching sprees, to quote you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Fine.
but yeah, that was something that just happened this week that I was like, do you know what, that is something that I because right, I write a lot of content for Comedy Lab. And I like actually write it in advance. I don't know if you do the same. Like, I write it in advance. So
Yeah.
I've actually, so like, it was Rick Mail's birthday the other day, and I was able to put out a thing about Rick Mail because I'd already written a thing about Rick Mail because it wasn't
Yeah.
difficult, and I'd also written a thing about Akira Toriyama. But then when he like passed away this week, I was like, okay, well, I'll just like change it up slightly and put and do it more as like a tribute type thing. And then I was like, do you know what? Off the back of that YouTube thing that I've been doing on this Twitch account, it was like this thing about like commenting on these things that had happened this day, and I was like, do you know what? I could do that, and I put that video together. So I'm hoping that people enjoy it.
Yeah. I think that sounds like a really good approach creating things, and I am very, very sure it's going to pay off for you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, none of my other online endeavours have, but we can only hope.
I mean, Comedy Lab seems to be doing pretty well. Like, people seem to respond to it. Like, you know, all of your workshops are going pretty well.
Yeah. No, it's going well. Well, when I was saying that, I was specifically thinking of my YouTube channel, which it got 1,000 subscribers, but it never went beyond 1,000, and I was always like when I got to 200 videos and it wasn't going up, I was like going, this is too niche. This is far too niche. You know, me going to like quarries in like Lower Lancashire. No one wants to watch that. So when the pandemic came,
How many episodes of this with no one watching will it be before you decide it's not worth doing?
how many Pokemon are there again?
1,050.
Oh, well, I stopped before then.
Oh, you got so much faith in our show.
No. Do you know what? Genuinely, so I don't know if people saw it, but I went to I was very lucky. I got invited to a writers' workshop at the BBC and Tiger Aspect, and there was loads and loads of cool people there, like Maxine Wade, Katie Mitchell, like, you know, like, people who are like absolutely amazing. I've got like so much. Anna Thomas was there. It was Jack Gledo. It was it was like a whole who's who of absolutely lovely eggs, right? And
Yeah.
Sean Davis, who put it all together, it was really really cool, right? And they said that you want to be putting out like content online, and like don't be bothered about like the amount of people who are watching it. Be bothered about like just putting out stuff there that like you're passionate about. So for me, this
All
is a
right.
project that I am passionate about. So
Aw.
it's nice that people watch, and I love the fact that you're here, Saf. Uh, and it's
Hmm.
just something that I enjoy doing. But yeah, they genuinely said like it's more important that you just do stuff, and they were like, you don't have like it's obviously people do get like discovered when they've got like millions of viewers, but also it means that say if you or I um, was to approach a production company, we like a, kind of like a manga one, a geeky like media type one. It's good to have this kind of bulk of content to be able to go. This is what I'm making, and it's in my passion, and it's in my voice, and
Yeah.
and as a result, it's really easy for them to say yes or no based off of that. And
I get that. I get that, but I feel like I don't know what kind of things you're planning on pitching to, but us talking about how like stadium professors are fucking pervert, I don't know what if that's going to give the impression you're trying to give
oh well,
is all I'm like you can say, look, I'm passionate about this, and we can say like, don't get me wrong, we have a lot of like we could do a supercut of all of like the cool Pokemon game mechanics ideas and just show people that, and it might give us like some clout to be like, look, we can do good ideas if you
yeah,
are looking for people who do good ideas. We could also do a supercut of like us calling Stadium Professor a nonce, and then have people go, you all you do is call Stadium Professor a nonce. Like, why don't you have any other thoughts?
I go well because he is a nonce and he needs to be stopped. So fucking get your priorities in order. Uh, but I just that's like I say, it needs to be in your voice, and if my voice is calling out nonsense, then it's calling out nonsense.
Yep, I
Uh,
feel you.
and as for as for Generation Three Professor being a furry, who's to say that we can't message like a hentai company and be like, we get you, mate.
What we should do is we should like reach out to Bad Dragon and be like, pitch Pokemon inspired dildos. This is what we want. Not we want, but this is what like we think the noncy Pokemon fans think.
Yeah,
You should take on board. I don't know if they will. I feel like they'll get very sued, but
so we've
we
already got
might
Saf on
get
board.
paid first. Like if we get paid before they get sued for, for everything else,
Yeah,
we can take the money and run.
yeah.
All we need to do is just agree an upfront fee
Um,
and then disappear into the background.
I'm thinking we go with a pink one that's called the Wiggly Tough, but spelled
Hey.
OUGH at the end.
Yeah. And that's got to have like this like mechanic.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? It's got to be really firm and sturdy, but go like this. And instead, when like dildos have balls,
Yeah,
it should have like the curly, wiggly puff tail.
yeah. I like it. We could have the Nido Queen, which is a big strap on.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um, I feel like we are not going to talk about Clefable this evening if we carry on down this tangent. We're just going to do Pokemon dildos.
Chansey Love Egg.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's just right there, ready.
Yeah, you could call it like soft boiled.
It should be one of those ones that have like a heat function that like warm up a little bit.
Yeah,
Because like because then it's warm and comforting like a Chansey's supposed to be.
yeah. Kangaskhan for the
Oh.
milfs.
Oh, do we want to stop now? I
Yeah,
feel like that. No, we're not, right. Remember we talked about Death Grip Arbok?
yeah.
There should be like a really fucking tight pocket pussy with in Arbok colours,
Yes, yes.
and it should like the external bit should have like an Arbok like around the edge, and it should have like a like constrict thing. Even if it doesn't do anything on the inside, it should like have the outside bit should just have a function that looks like it's constricting around you
Yeah,
with its snake body.
yeah. When when those TV executives were like, make sure you're making stuff in your voice. It's good that we have established our voice as perverts. So, on that note, should we head on into the next episode?
Let's do that.
Because otherwise, it will be filth.
Before we do, like well, oh, I don't know. I was gonna say like when you cut bits, like cut that bit into a video of just us talking about Pokemon as like a bonus bit.
So I will make a note. I'll make a note.
Yeah, make a note. Just like the Pokemon Dildos bonus video from this episode, and like everyone who's just like, oh, a little Pokemon chat will be like, what the fuck did we miss?
Bonus video, and that was at around about 1 hour 42. Right, here we go. Clefairyfable. Right, what is your main memories of Clefairyfable?
Yeah, so basically the same as Clefairy. I feel like Clefable doesn't have any of its own storylines,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah,
If there are, they weren't that memorable.
yeah,
I feel like it's just there for all the Clefairy storylines, and it really falls into the background. I think it exists to make Clefairy a competitive part of your team as you like level it up and evolve it and need better stats as the rest of your team gets more powerful. Um, uh, so which is disappointing because like it could have like a whole additional bit to it
yeah,
that like it's got its own special relationship with like the moon and the stars and all this other stuff. And I'm sure it's gonna say it's got like a really important role as like the fucking spaceship navigator or some shit when we get to that. But I feel like there's not much to it apart from it's a bigger Clefairy,
yeah,
and Clefairy got all of the important bits. Like I do like the Alpha Clefable in Arceus Legends Arceus is pretty cool. But then like all of the alphas, but like to be fair, it doesn't have like the magnetism and shit. But the Clefairy and the Alpha Clefable does only come out at night on a full moon in Legends Arceus. So it is possible to factor that in future games. And that's pretty cool and tanky. But yeah, that's about it. Apart from that, Clefable is something like I moonstone my Clefairy, I chuck it in a box, I get on with my life.
yeah. Now,
I don't even really remember it having any standout roles in the anime.
yeah,
There are a couple going around in the background, but nothing that stands out as like um eh.
yeah. So, I agree with that. I when I came to doing my picture, I was thinking to myself very similar. Where I was like, so with Clefairy, when I did my like drawing, I was like, okay, there's a couple of routes I could go with this. I could do like you did. I could do it at Mount Moon. There was the one from Pokemon Stadium, but and the one that I very nearly went with. This is like one of my main memories of Clefable is that it is the first Pokemon. It's the first Pokemon of the Jungle expansion of the trading card game. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's pretty decent and pretty rare for that reason. And like I said, I very nearly went with that for it's for the image that I drew, and I took a little bit of inspiration from it. But I think for me, the main thing I think of now is the fan theory that Gengar is Clefable's shadow. And the thing, as we've done this, there's a part of me that's like, well, I think that part of that is the limitations of the hardware, but the thing that I think gives it credence is that it is called the Shadow Pokemon, which, and
Yeah.
it is quite different to Ghastly and Haunter, which
Yeah.
would suggest that it was probably added on last minute, and the fact that it is a shadow Pokemon, and before, as we know, that Pokemon with the typings come in later on in terms of the development,
Mm.
like, so the whole it being like a ghost and all that kind of stuff comes in later. So it actually wouldn't surprise me if at one point in its production, Gengar was intended to be this kind of dark variant of Clefable.
Yeah. So like I don't know how much I believe that fan theory. I think it's a fan theory. But like I do like the parallels between them. I think it's quite cute and fun and it could be something because like they're a very similar shape, but at the same time, we've already acknowledged today lots of Pokemon are very similar shapes, lots of Pokemon are very similar to details, especially in the early generation. I think it is just it was an easy shape to do, an easy sprite to create out of like the limitations they had for creating it on the original Game Boy. So I don't know how much I buy that theory, but I do like it. I think like um they're both creatures of the night, but like one's the moonlight and one's the dark side of the moon could have
Mm.
been a really interesting parallel if they had chosen to lean into that ever. I don't really remember anything from the show or games supporting it, just apart from the fact that they look the same shape. Um, but it is a fun thing to think.
Yeah, I tell you this as well. So this is something that when I did my image, uh, when I started to draw the Gengar, I was like, I can kind of see how Gengar became so like iconic. Like
Yeah.
it was so easy to kind of like make once I kind of got the main shape. I was like, right, so I'm going to put in the face now, and then I kind of filled in the rest of it, and I was like, right, this just feels like really like I can see how Gengar like caught on in a way that like
Yeah.
Clefable never did.
Yeah, because like Gengar like looming out of the shadows is such an iconic mental image. And I feel like, the big grin and the laugh and like when it appears in the haunted mansion in the show is just so memorable. And Clefable just doesn't have that. Like if it had an equivalent of it like appearing in a beam of moonlight, then that could have been really interesting. But again, I think they let Clefairy have all those storylines
Yeah,
and just didn't leave room to build on Clefable too much, if I'm
yeah,
honest. And it's another one that's like very underserved. Like it's basically got the same, yeah, it's basically just Clefairy but bigger. I have like nothing else um like really memorable about it.
yeah.
Like,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I think that is part of the like part of the problem that it has is that really it needs to it doesn't really build on what Clefairy does beyond just being bigger, and I think we come to
Yeah.
expect more of a transformation, especially if this is the end of the evolution line. Like it it doesn't feel impressive.
Yeah. I get that. It does feel quite underwhelming. Like I was saying earlier, it feels like it's got a little bit of like middle evolution derp, like it's not
Yeah,
fully cooked. Um like I could see Clefable having like a fucking beastly mega if they wanted to give it one. Because they gave Gengar a fucking cool mega evolution.
yeah,
I could see Clefairy having one that like harnesses the power of the moon in a way that I think is actually probably gonna get you know uh used by a different fairy type.
yeah. I tell you what else I would accept. I would accept if its final evolution was something. If they kind of went the opposite direction, if they were like, okay, so we've got Clefairy, and now we're gonna evolve it into like almost like a Tinkerbell, like where it goes smaller but is like more powerful.
No, tell you what, I quite like the fairy being a fat Pokemon. And I know that we say that um, first generation peak fat Pokemon always here for it. But I feel like a lot of the fairy Pokemon in the newer games are very like slender and delicate and Tinkerbell. They've all got like not all of them. Like Aromatisse is still a nice fat Pokemon. I like Aromatisse just because it is fat. But then like you've got a lot of very like Flabebe is like was the iconic kind of introduction of fairy type uh part of the story Pokemon. Um and I feel like it's cute and I get it, but I feel like that little dainty um style of design is very overdone for fairy type Pokemon. And I feel like I'm quite happy. I would like there to be more like chunky fairies. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would like them to do I feel like Clefable um is like the fairy godmothers in Sleeping Beauty. Like they're the little fat fairies,
Mm-hmm.
not the like elegant ones. And I like that. I think that's a species of fairy that's underrepresented.
Yeah,
Like little weird bickery fat fairies.
yeah, and I agree with everything you said. However, there is one thing that I would disagree with in that if they had done that with Clefable and gone for kind of the Tinkerbell type thing and been like, okay, so it starts out like this and then it gets like tiny. Um, that would have been the first one before they like overdid it in like, generations 8, 9. Like they had, 6 generations to do something like that before they like went overboard. So I think that if they'd done that in the first generation, we wouldn't be as used to it as we are now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think you make a fair point
yeah.
there.
And like I say, like I don't have so much of an issue with the body shape. I'd be happy with it to be the same body shape but smaller.
Okay.
Like
I feel like there aren't any Pokemon that get smaller when they evolve. And I feel like that would be an interesting route to take if they could do it in a way, um, in a creative and interesting way. Like if you could get a Pokemon that leaned into, say, like special attack and agility and speed,
mm,
that I could see justify it getting smaller as it gets bigger. Except a lot of them don't. And I feel like it's really easy to end up like body shamey in a way.
mm.
Like it gets smaller as it gets more powerful.
Yeah, that's
Like I
true.
feel like if there's like this Pokemon like retreats into uh a different sort of state. Um I don't know. I also feel like it'd be weird for the breeding mechanic for the bigger Pokemon to come out of the smaller Pokemon. I
That
don't
is
know
true.
how they'd factor that in. I feel like there are like as interesting an idea as it is, I think it would take a lot of work to make the concept effective without being like just weird in
Yeah,
a way that could border on unpleasant.
yeah,
Um, and maybe there is someone on that team creative enough to do it and implement it in a way that makes sense and is coherent and not icky. But off the top of my head, sort of everything is like I could see it getting like taller and thinner or like something like that. But I don't love that concept. Um, but I don't know.
yeah.
Don't know.
And I respect that, but I think that there is room. Like you could like now I'm thinking about it, you could easily do it with like a not necessarily the fairy type, but you say if you did. I know that this is like a cliche, but like say if you did like a car type Pokemon, which I know everyone would be like, oh, I can't believe
They
this is like,
have
is there a car one?
Rev Room. Yeah.
Oh well. If you were to go from like its initial stage being like a Jeep, and then it evolves into like a sports car.
Yeah, there's Rev Room. which is a steel poison type Pokemon introduced in Scarlet and Violet that evolves from Varoom. So there are two car-based Pokemon. Um, and so Varoom is like a little engine dude that just like chugs around the desert. And Revavroom is like the big car that all of the uh Team Star bosses come out on and fight you with. The one that you can get is like not quite as flashy as theirs, but I mean it's an interesting Pokemon. I think steel poison makes sense because it's like polluting the environment and made of metal.
Mm.
But yeah, there is a car Pokemon now.
Well, cue the outrage again. As I often say,
Yeah.
I'm always learning on this show. Uh, always learning. I mean, I must admit, I did feel like it was ridiculous. I've still not finished Violet, one of the reasons as well was because I kind of didn't like the fact that like Maraid. Now I've said it, I didn't really like the fact that Maraiden was like a motorbike. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just felt weird.
I I also feel like the legendaries are just given to you now. Like you don't have to work for them. Like you're just given Miraidon immediately.
Yeah,
Um and like I miss when the legendaries like were just like they were incidental.
yeah,
Like you had to go out of your way to find the legendary birds. I don't think I've ever caught all three legendary dogs because they like travel and I'm never prepared for them.
yeah,
And then um like in Gold, like Mewtwo is just like in a cave. If you defeat the Elite Four and then don't carry on playing, you might never know he's there.
yeah,
Like Lugia and Ho-Oh, you have to go out of your way to find. They're not part of the story. Like the story is like your rival in Team Rocket, and just you becoming champion and
yeah,
proving that being a good person is what happens. And like I actually did like the way that Groudon and Kyogre were exploited
yeah,
in Generation 3. Um and that made them part of the story, but you still had to work for them. Like they were always going to be in the same place, but like you didn't get them by default.
yeah,
Um and I really do feel like now they make the legendaries like too much a part of the story.
yeah,
And too easy to get. Like if the point of the game is like catch the legendary, like I don't want that. I want the point to be like you are going on your adventure. The legendary is out being a legend, and you are just a child. And if you happen to encounter it, it's going to be a mission for you to like get it because it is and yeah, it's a legend. That's the point. But
yeah,
when they just like hand it to you,
yeah,
I've been saying this for a while. Like I don't want to come across all boomer and like, oh, back in my day, yada yada. But like the games when the rivals started picking the Pokemon weak against yours instead of strong against yours, it it started going downhill. It's too easy.
mm,
Like you have to like work to set yourself like Nuzlocke challenge rules, like just to make the game more interesting, and I don't like that.
mm,
Like I want to feel a sense of challenge. And I know I'm an adult, but I think it's not that I'm an adult that it's less challenging. Like my strategy is exactly the same as it ever was, but like I still don't bother putting that much effort into my strategy is what I mean by that. I still very much play like a child, but yeah, like now, like I'm not scared of my rival anymore. When they
yeah,
started like healing your Pokemon before they fight you, fuck all
yeah,
the way off. Like, make me scared to get to the end of like Victory Road because someone with like six fully healed, powerful Pokemon is gonna come fuck me up. Like, make
yeah,
me earn it. Like, make me feel good about beating you. Don't make me feel like, eh.
yeah. Well, I mean, you saying that, right? So two things came to mind. So I feel like the Kyogre and Groudon was the start of I mean, they did it in Gen 1 because like Team Rocket was connected to like Mewtwo and stuff, but like to
Yeah.
actually have the legendary like full on part of the story, and then you battle him as part of the story. Like, I can see why they did that as like a narrative, but that's probably the beginning of them going down this route where, you know, every single time you will come across the legendaries, every single time you will like eventually get the legendaries. But
Yeah.
I agree. Like the rivals. Oh, mate. Do you know what? Right. I was whilst you were talking, I was because I wanted to mention the name. Right. So Eternatus, so cool,
Mm-hmm.
but it is
Yeah.
essentially just given to you, right?
Yeah.
And I looked up the picture first of all because I wanted the name of it. I didn't want to be like, oh, what's the name of that one, right? But the picture here has got Hop in it, who is my least favorite rival out of all the rivals. And
Yep.
and
And I know how you hate Hop.
yeah, oh, because they turned me into Gary Oak. They turned me into the one who's absolutely battering him, and it's like, why are you doing this to me every single time? I'd be like, it's so nice that you've got your double, and I'm like swapping out Pokemon because they've like outlived their usefulness. You know that whole you either
Yeah.
die the villain, you either die a hero or live long enough to be the villain. I've now played enough Pokemon that I am Gary Oak. So why are you doing that to
Mm-hmm.
me?
Yeah. I get that. That is actually like yeah, I didn't really like share your dislike of Hop to that extent until you put it in those terms, and now I definitely get it.
What can I say? I am very influential. Please vote for me in the May 2nd elections. Uh, right, shall we have a look at Clefable's Pokedex entries?
Let's do that.
There we go. Let's go. There we go.
Um,
There's. I just left Eternatus up, so we'll. Right, there's Clefable. Okie doke. Do you know what? Right, as I was scrolling down, then like that may well have just been Clefairy because it's so
yeah,
similar.
it
Like,
is so similar.
I don't know what the reasoning behind it was. Like I tell you what, as well. Now I'm looking at it, it genuinely wouldn't surprise me if Clefable got designed first, and then they were like, "Well, we'll just make a little version of it."
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Um,
So here we go. Pokedex entries. Oh, wrong Pokedex. Pokedex entries. Right. A timid fairy Pokemon that is rarely seen. It will run and hide the moment it senses people. I like that because it's giving it like a bit of a personality.
yeah, 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 I'm with you on that one. Um,
Yeah, and I would.
I like yellow as well. They appear to be very protective of their own world. It is a kind of fairy rarely seen by people. I feel like with that being one of its earliest Pokedex entries, when they introduced fairy type, they absolutely had to make Clefable and Clefairy fairy types.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Even with just the name, like they must have been like, right, well, we painted ourselves in a corner here.
Yeah. I like Stadium as well. Its ears are very sensitive, so it does not like loud noises or busy places, will not come out in front of people. So we already know that Clefairy and Clefable are quite mysterious and secretive, and I like that this gives it some context. And I feel like it could also make sense because like if it's from space where like sound doesn't travel through a vacuum, it makes sense that its ears are really sensitive if they're going to communicate at all out on the moon.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like while obviously that requires some knowledge of how sound travels in space, it's not uncommon knowledge that sound doesn't travel very well or at all in space, or at least doesn't behave the same way it does here.
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like that's quite a subtle way of linking it to what else we know about this line, and I really like that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what else it makes me think of, right? So, we've established that it's got a similar kind of shape to Pikachu. And we did the Nidoran line, and that mentioned loads of stuff about ears. And this is
Hmm.
mentioning loads of stuff, well, this mentions some stuff about ears. It makes
I
me go,
really feel like big ears were just a really easy thing to get into the sprite designs.
well, very, very possibly, but I don't remember there being much stuff about Pikachu's ears.
Yeah, They focus more on its like little cheek pouches, didn't it? Little electric
Yeah.
cheeks.
So why
Um,
does it need those ears?
don't know.
Huh?
I guess to make it more interesting than a little yellow blob.
Yeah.
Because like we've seen many a Pikachu clone happen later. Like Togedemaru doesn't have the same big ears, and I think it looks quite sort of featurelessly round despite its like patterns.
yeah, but what I bet is they couldn't give it round ears because it'd be too similar to Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, that's quite possible as well.
Yeah.
Um, so gold and silver have lent into the ears. Gold has, with its acute hearing, it can pick up sounds from far away. It usually hides in quiet places. Silver is very similar, but with a few minor word changes. It's very sensitive ears that it distinguish distant sounds. As a result, it prefers quiet places. Crystal, like along the same lines, said to live in quiet remote mountains. This type of fairy has a strong aversion to being seen. And Stadium 2 has once again copied Gold's homework.
Yeah.
Um, I tell you what, I really like Ruby and Sapphire. It says Clefable moves by skipping lightly as if it were flying using its wings. Its bouncy step lets it walk on water. It is known to take strolls on lakes on quiet moonlit nights. Now, I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like that has ticked a lot of my boxes. It's showing me what Clefable is like in the wild. It's showing me like something I don't know yet. Like I think the bouncy steps are really reminiscent of like astronauts on the moon,
Yeah.
in low gravity, and I love the idea of like being so the Clefable and Clefairy, the Alpha Clefable in Pokemon Legends Arceus that I was talking about, is by the water. It doesn't walk on the water, but it is right next to a big lake. So I feel like that's a detail I might not have really paid attention to without reading this today. But I would really, really love to see that,
Yeah.
like just a wild Clefable like strolling across a lake would be so cool.
Yeah. It does genuinely feel like the Clefairy and Clefable line is like a line that they seem to like really put like a lot of detail in, and you
Yeah.
wouldn't think it.
And then they haven't followed through on it in where we see them. There was one cool episode that leaned very heavily on Clefairy and didn't do enough for
Yeah.
Clefable. Because like this is making it very cool.
Yeah.
Um, Emerald is very similar. A Clefable uses its wings to skip lightly as if it were flying. Its bouncy step lets it even walk on water. On quiet moonlit nights, it stroll on lakes. Emerald, I feel like, is doing that. Like, can I copy your homework? Yeah, but change it up a bit so you can't tell every
Yeah.
single fucking time. Fire Red sees our first bit of dick swinging.
Yeah.
It has an acute sense of hearing. It can easily hear a pin being dropped nearly 1,100 yards away, which is a fucking weird number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It makes you think Fire Red Professor. Well, actually, that's the original one because I just scrolled up dead quick. That's the original one. Red and Green Professor going. Take this pin 1,000 yards away. Can it hear it? Yeah. What about 1,100? Yeah. What about 1,105?
No.
No.
But if it can easily hear it 1,100, surely that means with like in optimal conditions it can hear it from further away.
Well, obviously they did that research like last thing on a Friday. They were like, should we do further away? Nah. Get bevies in.
But it seemed like it didn't seem to be struggling too much. It's like
Yeah, write it down.
Yeah. Leaf Green has used the same as Red and Blue.
Yeah.
Diamond has rarely seen by people, is said to be drawn by the full moon to play at deserted lakes. I think that's cute.
Yeah.
But again, not really new information. Pearl has its hearing is so acute it can hear a pin drop over half a mile, which I did just Google. Half a mile, 1,100 yards is about 0.6 of a mile. So that's the same information we already have, but with like a different measurement.
They're like, we need to pad this out. We need to pad this out. Imperial, right? Get on it.
I feel like these are all variations on the same thing. It is very wary and rarely shows itself to people. Its ears can hear a pin drop over half a mile away. I think that is slightly better worded than Pearl, because Pearl says it can hear a pin drop over half a mile. Like it should say over half a mile away. Heart gold and soul silver are just gold and silver over again. Black and white are the same as platinum. Black two and white two even have given us the same information, but in slightly new phrasing. That is a sensitive enough to hear a pin drop from over a mile away. So not just half a mile, but a full mile now. So
Wow.
someone's done, it's not easily anymore, but someone's done some additional research here. So they're usually found in quiet
Yeah.
places.
Black professor, black and white professor were like, yeah, half a mile, and black two and white two were like, now I need to get my steps in.
Yeah. So X is the same as Pearl and Y is the same as Leaf Green. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are the same as Ruby and Sapphire, which I don't mind because I like those ones. Sun and Moon have some new information for us. Sun has, they don't like to reveal themselves in front of people. They live quietly and pack deep in the mountains. So this is the first I've heard of packs. And Moon has, according to tradition, people who see a pair of Clefables skipping by can look forward to a happy marriage. That's a new bit of information
Yeah.
and a new bit of lore. Like I like that bit of superstition. Um, Ultra Sun, I don't know how I feel about this wording, but it can't help but hear a pin drop from over half a mile away. So it lives deep in the mountains where there aren't many people or Pokemon. I actually quite like that. I
Yeah.
thought it can't help but hear was a bit weird because it's like, what do you mean? Maybe there are noisier things in that half a mile, but actually, it then leading into the explanation that that's why it's in the mountains, away from like loud things,
Yeah.
makes total sense.
Yeah. It
Um,
also explains why Clefable know all the gossip in the office.
yeah,
I couldn't help but hear that you were having issues in your marriage.
I couldn't
How do you
help
know about
but
that?
hear.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, how do you know about that? Well, first of all, I know for a fact that you haven't seen two Clefables skipping. And secondly, I can't help but hear a pin drop. So I was going to hear about how you and David were having issues.
Issues. I quite like Ultra Moon as well. Some scientists believe that it gazes intently at the sky on nights with a full moon because it's homesick. That's quite cute.
Oh,
And I like the believed bit as well because it leans into that like air of mystery that we really got with Clefairy. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee has the same as yellow. Uh, Sword and Shield have the same as leaf green and black two and white. No, not black two. Yeah, black two and white two. Um, Brilliant Diamond is the same as Diamond, and Shining Pearl is the same as Pearl. Legends Arceus has Legend says that on clear, quiet nights it listens for the voices of its kin living on the moon. I too often think of my homeland so far away. I really like that
yeah,
one because, like, again, clear, quiet nights. I like because in this particular game, the Alpha Clefable, as I said, only appears on nighttime with a full moon.
yeah,
That it listens for the voices of its kin living on the moon is like hints at that. Like it's like right, it needs to be a clear night with the moon out. Like that is a clue to like where and when you can find this Pokemon in Pokemon Legends Arceus. That is kind of a mechanic that isn't used as well in other games and I think could still be very much built upon in future, but like it's the start of something I really like to see.
yeah,
I also like how like in Legends Arceus, you wrote the Pokedex yourself,
yeah,
and like it ties into your story a bit because it's not quite got that like scientific field researcher like attempt to be objective. It's like it's also kind of your little journal, and I like that. I think that this is a really cute way of like being for this game,
yeah,
rather than just like it's got ears.
yeah.
Um, um, Scarlet has Said to live in quiet, remote mountains. This type of fairy has a strong aversion to being seen. I think that's phrased differently from all of the. Oh no, it's the same as Crystal. Ignore me. It's the same as Crystal. And then Violet has the same as Fire Red.
Yeah.
So
I tell you,
that's just repeated stuff.
I tell you one thing that I have been quite pleased by. So I actually scrolled down to see the Kitakami Pokedex from Pokemon Snap 2. And
Okay.
for both this and Clefairy, they were Pokemon that came out on nighttime courses.
Yeah, that's really cute. That's
Uh,
very cute.
yeah, nice little attentions to detail there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel like Pokemon Snap, you did get like more of that, like, right, what are Pokemon like in the wild rather than like what they like to battle with.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'd like to see more of that in the main series games.
Well, should we have a look at the Smogon?
Let's do it.
Okie doke. So, uh, already I'm seeing a lot of yellow, so that's a good sign for it. Um, and so HP 95, pretty decent.
Mhm.
Attack 70, defense 73, special attack 95, special defense 90, and a low speed. I'm just gonna very quickly flip over to Clefairy to compare those, but those have gone up significantly. So like
Yeah.
the attack and defense have added like 20-25 on already. Uh,
Yeah.
so like big jumps across. So
Big,
like,
big jump.
in fact, special attack from Clefairy is 35. It goes up 35 from 60 to 95. It's in the OU category, which I want to say is overused. So it's looking pretty. It's looking pretty. It's looking pretty good for Clefairy, which for Clefable, which again I feel like you would not initially guess that that is the case. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, because like, we've seen a lot of Pokemon so far that have like a decent amount of green in their stats. And like Clefable has no green. Um, I would have thought overused would at least be the Pokemon that have yellow across the board and no red.
yeah,
But like Clefable's got some red and some orange.
yeah,
Um, However, like I'm also kind of not surprised because if like given we saw how competitively viable Clefairy is,
yeah,
obviously evolution has to be able to top that. I think the fairy typing definitely helps it. Now it's no longer normal.
yeah.
And also it's got a move pool that lends itself to sort of creative strategies more than just like, blast it with HP lowering moves, which is generally how I approach Pokemon.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm going to be interested to see as well. So, what generation did you bring in Fairy type?
I want to say Palos.
Kalos. So that's X and Y.
Yes.
Because I just want to see if we go into
Generation 6. So
generation.
Generation 6.
Yeah.
Fairy
So,
type was introduced in Generation 6, the first new type for more than 12 years. Its main intention was to balance the type chart by reducing the power of dragons, while also giving an offensive boost to poison and steel types. Several old Pokemon were retyped and new Pokemon introduced, and in the years since, the total number of Fairy type Pokemon has caught up with other types.
so what I want to have a quick look at is see if it was still an overused category when it was a normal type. So there we go.
Ah.
Look, so if we go into back when it's a normal type, it's actually in the rarely used category. So
Yeah, I can see that because, like I said, like you have better, like chunkier, tankier, normal type Pokemon. Like you've got Tauros, which has like a surprisingly good move pool. You've got Snorlax, which you are just given. Ilera, a bunch of them just sitting there in the road. You've got like or Pidgeot's a normal type.
yeah,
Like Dodrio's are normal type. Like you've got a lot of cool. Like Chansey is obviously like if you're going for like the fat pink ones,
mm,
you'd pick Chansey. I think
yeah.
out of the options that you have.
So
Um, hmm.
So I'm going to very quickly see what it says about it in Gen 5. There we go. So there we go. I'll just read that paragraph and then flip over to what it's like now. Clefable, who was one of the most versatile Pokemon in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, makes a comeback in rarely used. Clefable possesses respectable bulk, along with reliable healing, amazing ability with Magic Guard. It also has great support moves in its arsenal, such as Wish, Heal Bell, Stealth Rock. All these traits make it a great special wall. Wish Passer, Cleric, and Hazard Setter Magic Guard gives it immunity. Just going to skip here a little bit. To top it all off, Clefable has a wide attacking move pool, allowing it to surprise many checks and counters. It can pack quite the punch, such as Magic Guard. Finally, when holding Toxic Orb, Clefable can act as a great status absorber using a powerful facade. I was going to call it facade then. But let's flip back to now and see what it says about it now. Because it looks like that fairy type has really boosted this up. Clefable's decent bulk, reliable recovery, and fantastic defensive typing allow it to act as a solid check to Pokemon like Garchomp, Mega Medicham, Mega Lopunny. Also, it's doing decent against like Mega Evolutions as well, and Hawlucha, making it a valuable defensive Pokemon in the tier. It also has access to 2 fantastic abilities in Magic Guard and Unaware, sprouting into different sets. Defensive Magic Guard, Clefable provides wonderful utility to bulky offensive and balanced teams thanks to its ability to act as a status absorber and use of moves like Stealth Rock, Calm Mind, and Thunder Wave. Again, I'm just going to skip ahead a tiny bit. These boons and the fact it can also use heal statuses with Heal Bell and Pass Wish to its teammates make Unaware Clefable a stall team mainstay. However, Clefable does have its own shortcomings. Its rather lackluster offensive presence, if not running Life Orb, means it invites a plethora of dangerous wall breakers such as Heatran, is it Magiana? Is that how that's pronounced?
I don't know.
Mega.
I thought it was Magina because it's got gears. So I thought gear was a. It might not be.
No, that makes sense. Mega Mawile, Tapu Balu, and Volcarona, although Clefable's expansive moveset means that these Pokemon can be surprised by moves like Thunder Wave and Fire Blast. Additionally, which I'm assuming will be a holdover from back when it was a normal type. Additionally, its bulk is quite mediocre for a defensive Pokemon, making it prone to losing to Pokemon it is supposed to check if it is chipped even slightly. So, there we go. I am suitably, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I'm suitably pleasantly impressed and surprised by Clefable.
Yeah, I feel like it was quite underwhelming in terms of like its role narratively, and also like you don't see a lot of them like in the games being used by other trainers to show you what you can really do with it.
Yeah.
Like Gen 2, for instance, I never would have picked a Miltank because Whitney's fucked me up.
Yeah.
Like it made me think, fuck, I need to learn how to use a Miltank.
Yeah.
But like Clefable doesn't really get that. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's another one, it's really badly underserved. And I
Yeah.
feel like it could have been so cool if they just put a bit more of an effort into that.
Yeah. But I bet you that is because of Pikachu and Jigglypuff.
Yeah.
But
Well.
But I do genuinely think that this, like all the evidence that we've done in this episode, seems to suggest that whoever runs Pokemon like high up must be a big fan of this Pokemon.
Yeah. Someone put a lot of effort into making Clefable like a really interesting to dig into because I've really enjoyed this one.
Yeah. Right. Well, should we draw it to a close?
We need to give it our rating.
Oh yes. I'm gonna give it a 6 again.
I was gonna give it a 4 because I feel like it could be so much better, but it was so like underused that there was just so much like missed potential in it. Like all of this information that just like didn't come through in the story and it should have done. And it's like I wish it had.
Yeah.
I wish it had. I feel like if it had got that attention, in a few episodes, or even as like a side character in one of the films,
Yeah.
it the way that Slow King was, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, if it had that, then it would have been a six, and I would have seen all of this, and I would have loved it, and I
Yeah.
still would have had the issue of, well, I want to see more of it in the games.
Yeah.
But like the only time Clefable is really memorable is the Alpha Clefable in Arceus, and honestly, a lot of the alphas are cool. Like a lot of them are really well executed in Legends Arceus when it comes down to like figuring out, this the space they take up on the map.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I feel like, and it's not Clefable's fault. Like I like Clefable a lot more now than I did before we
Yeah.
started this episode, but uh, it was done a bit dirty, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think you've made a fair argument, and I shall actually drop mine down to a 5. I'm going to drop it down to a 5.
Another episode where we spend, what is it, 2.5 hours talking about stuff, just to go, yeah, mid.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Right. Right. Do you have any other stuff that you want to plug?
Nah, I already talked more than I should have done about cancer today, so I'm just going to be quiet.
Same here. Right. Cheers for dropping by.